evening and welcome. My name is Jennifer Ortega. I'm a member of the Pleasant Hill Education Commission. I also serve on the Pleasant Hill Education Initiative Steering Committee, and we're the group that organized tonight's career event in partnership with your college and career advisor, Ms. Sheila Welsh. Thank you to you, and to your English teacher, Ms. Nicole Hackett. So thank you for coming. I'm going to say a few words after I introduce our Pleasant Hill Mayor, Dr. Michael Harris.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. Welcome, everyone. It's terrific to see so many folks here tonight. When I launched the Pleasant Hill Education Initiative last February, the idea was to provide mechanisms to give students additional information that they would need so that they could do a better job of succeeding in school and have the tools they need to enter college or enter a career. We've put on 3 programs so far this year through the initiative. We've had a Night of 1,000 Inventions at the library in which young students had an opportunity to try new inventions and to become inventors. Last month, we put on a program for 5th graders and their parents as they start to think about middle school called Navigating Middle School, in which they met with principals and teachers of middle school to learn the tricks of the trade of how to make that important transition from elementary school to middle school. We've also started a reading readiness program with volunteers throughout the community who are going into our local schools and helping teach reading to kindergartners through 2nd grade. And tonight, we are launching the first of our career nights. Tonight's event is focused on industries that have to do with building, construction, architecture, and engineering. And we're very fortunate to have cooperation from our Education Commission, our Steering Committee, and from College Park High School. And I want to thank the volunteers who came tonight to tell us about their professions and why they think they are so important and why they enjoy doing their job. I hope you all enjoy doing your job, right? You do. And I hope that those of you who are here as students will take away from this ideas as to what you need to do to prepare yourself for one of these careers and make sure that it's the right thing for you to do. And parents, I hope this will give you an opportunity to learn more about these careers so you and your children can have appropriate conversations about how to direct them and what courses they need to take to make sure that they're prepared to make that transition from high school into either career or college. I also want to pay special thanks to Jennifer Ortega for organizing this meeting. Jennifer is one of the more active participants in our steering committee, and she's done a wonderful job. And please join me in thanking her for all the hard work she's done in organizing this. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you so much, Mayor Harris. So just a few more thank yous to our sponsors, the Pleasant Hill Chamber of Commerce and Togo Sandwiches for those goodies in the back. I hope you got a cookie and a water. And don't forget that Togo's is available for your holiday catering needs. I also want to thank our Pleasant Hill Education Commissioners who came out to support us tonight. Please raise your hands. Kelly St. Germain, Chris Winder, Matt Rinn, Emily Richards, Linda Waters was here earlier, and of course, the man who keeps the city running, our Pleasant Hill Public Information Officer, Martin Nealis. Thank you so much. So I want to extend a very warm welcome to our panelists. Thank you so much for your time and for being here this evening. And I would like to introduce you to our moderator tonight, who needs no introduction because I know you watch him on the news on Channel 2, KTVU, every night. He is a former member of our Pleasant Hill Education Commission. He is an active education advocate here in our community. And again, he's a news reporter for Channel 2, KTVU News. John Sasaki.
Thanks, Jennifer. How's everybody doing tonight? Doing all right? All right. Well, I have to say that the mayor had to skip out. He had another meeting. I was going to ask him, though, how do you grow up to become mayor of Pleasant Hill? And unfortunately, we can't do that. So maybe you have to talk to Jennifer about how you grow up to become a commissioner for the Education Advisory Commission. We'll talk about that later. All right, so I just want to lay out a couple of things real quick. This is the 3rd or 4th time we've done this. Third time we did this. This is something that as Jennifer said, I'm very, very passionate about. My father was a teacher at Berkeley High School for 35 years. I had public education almost all the way through. I went to private school for a little bit after high school, but then transferred to San Diego State. And so you're never going to find someone who's a bigger advocate for public education than myself. Private education is great, but I pull for College Park. I pull for all the great schools in this area. Now, I have to ask, is anybody in here a lacrosse player here at College Park? No? Yes? All right. I should confess, I coached the girls at Alhambra in Martinez. All right, so I apologize, but I wish you guys luck this season. I do. All right. But so the point I'm trying to make is on a regular basis every year I do work with kids trying to get them to see the right way to get ahead in life. And that's what we're here. Everybody here on this dais, everybody who's involved in the Education Commission is here to make sure you guys make the right choices to get ahead in life, all right? That could involve going to college. It could involve just finding the right job just right out of high school. It could involve going to the military or becoming a police officer or whatever. Tonight, obviously, we're talking about engineering, all right? Engineering and building. And so these are really specialized kinds of jobs, most of which require some pretty serious education at the upper level, 4-year, possibly even beyond that, university education. But we are also going to talk about some very serious, very profitable, and very rewarding kind of work that you can do without actually going to a university, possibly getting some vocational training, some other kinds of training. And so what I want to do is I want to start by saying that these folks are going to introduce themselves one by one, starting right here with Peter, and they're going to tell you who they are, what they do, and how they got there, just kind of in a nutshell to get this discussion rolling. Please, Peter.
Excellent. Well, thank you, John, for the introduction. My name is Peter Sasnowski. Probably have the most complicated last name out of the panelists here. I'm originally from Poland. Wasn't born in Pleasant Hill, as you can tell by my accent. Went to school back in Poland, did my elementary education, high school education. Then went to college. I studied civil engineering, then construction management, and I decided to explore the world. And I bought a plane ticket, came to the United States, and got a job in construction management specifically. I work for Webcore Builders in the city. You may know some of the glass buildings that we've built, some of the museums or hospitals we've built over the years. I work in the main office as a construction management on the pre-construction site, which we'll get into details a little later. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Emily Bonato. I am an architect. I grew up here locally in Pleasant Hill and Walnut Creek, and I graduated from Ignatia Valley High School. I went to college thinking I was going to be a German major and teach German. 2 years into it, I realized maybe not, and decided to transfer to the University of Colorado and study architecture. I finished my degree there, went on to get my master's, and I work in Pleasanton as an architect. I do mostly residential and some light commercial.
Good evening. My name's Kevin Van Buskirk. Thank you, John. I'm a sheet metal worker. I was born and raised here in Pleasant Hill, California. Went to Pleasant Hill High School. I'm kind of got jitters right now. I'm in the Falcon territory, in the Falcon nest. It's kind of weird to me, but it's fun. I got into sheet metal workers. What we do is what you've been seeing happen around your school here, the new HVAC systems and the metal roofing and the flashings and that type of thing, the testing and balancing of those systems. I work for Sheet Metal Workers Local Union number 104. I'm a business representative for Sheet Metal Workers. And I got to this position into sheet metal because I was at a career fair at Laney College in 1983. And I was going back and forth between highway patrol and sheet metal, and I chose sheet metal. And I found myself the following week, signed up as a sheet metal worker, and here I am, 32 years later. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carol Choi. I'm actually born in Hong Kong, and I came over to the States and actually in the East Bay in Fremont when I was 11 years old with my parents. I went to high school here in the East Bay, and I studied at UCLA. That's my undergraduates where I studied. And when I got into college, I didn't know what I wanted to major at first. I actually got into UCLA as undeclared life science, funny enough. And through the 4 years of college, I made a point of exploring and trying to really find what interests me. And I did that through internships and work experience and participating in societies and whatnot. And then once I finalized what I wanted to do, I pursued a master's degree at UC Berkeley. And upon graduation, I joined TY Lin International, which is a bridge design firm in San Francisco. And this firm was responsible for the design of the Oakland Bay Bridge that have just recently opened in September. And I have worked there for 10 years, and it's been a really fun ride, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later and to share my experience with you. So, so that's it.
Actually, I'm going to go ahead and stand up. My name is Moreno. When I was your age, I basically did something radical. I told my parents that I wanted to head south and go to college. I think they thought I was going down to San Diego, but I went further south. I went all the way down to Mexico and decided to study there. I figured that that was an opportunity for me. I thought at the time I was just wanted to do something different. I wanted to not only study what I thought was my career choice at an early age, but which is civil engineering, but I also wanted to explore a little bit of my heritage, learn Spanish, and so I did that. Graduated, 4-year career, a bachelor's in civil engineering. After that, I did about a couple years of traveling. I came back to the States where my parents lived and where I grew up. Went to San Jose State University, ended up with a Master in Science in Structural Engineering. Worked 3 or 4 years in the structural engineering firm. We did some very unique projects that I'll talk about a little bit later. From there, for those of you who still recall, in the 90s we had a recession, and I was unemployed for a while. So I ended up getting a job with the city of Pittsburgh. For many years, for the 3 years of my career, I was in the design and construction of things. And then suddenly I was hired with the city of Pittsburgh in order to demolish most of the downtown, the marine area, so I was involved with that for a couple of years. For those of you who know Pittsburgh, I stayed there for a couple more years and did some interesting capital projects. Then since then, about the time that most of you were born, about 17 years ago, I ended up working for the city of Pleasant Hill. I'm the engineering division manager. I've been your city engineer for the last 17 years. We've been doing some interesting things in the city of Pleasant Hill, so I'll be talking about those a little bit later. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Iván Elizondo. I'm from Mexico. I came to the United States when I was 17 years old. I actually felt very fortunate. I came to the United States because I got a scholarship from the University of Texas at Austin to study mechanical engineering. The reason I went to mechanical engineering was that I just love to take things apart. It was fun, just to find something and take it apart, and then the problem was later trying to put it back together, right? And that was even a challenge. But just finding how things work, it was just my passion. So from that, I thought, okay, I'd like to go into mechanical engineering. Went to school in Texas, graduated from there, and then I did not know what I was going to do. And I ended up working for Dow Chemical. They were one of the companies that offered me a job, and at the time I thought, yeah, that sounds interesting. Wasn't really sure if I wanted to work for a chemical company, but that's what I did, and I've been working for them, getting to learn more about what is it that, you say, well, chemical company, what do you do? And it's interesting because they make anything from products for crops, plastics. If you have a cell phone, one of the products that now Dow also makes is the screen that you can touch on your phones that, reads that you're touching it. Is like, gosh, it's just that fascinating. I don't get to work on that, but, that's sort of some of the things that sometimes you can come across when you work for the chemical industry. And so right now I work here in Pittsburgh, and we'll get to hear more stories about that. Thanks.
So a couple things. First of all, if you see me looking at my phone, it's not because I'm getting a text. It's because I have questions in my phone that we're going to be asking the panelists here, just so you know. I'm not being rude to them. Also, we have a lot of engineers here on the dais. Can anybody actually fix these lights? Can you figure that out? Figure out what's going on here? I mean, that's pretty weird. Yeah. All right, so by and large, you've heard some pretty directed paths about where these folks started and where they ended up. I mean, the educations were largely engineering for a lot of them, and that's what they do now. And so I want to talk to them without a doubt and focus on that. But one of the things I wanted to talk about as well is Kevin. You said you were between CHP and sheet metal worker. What was that process that you went through? Let me digress. Where were you? What were you doing at the time? You said you were at Laney College. What were you doing? What were you thinking at that point until you got to talk to someone who said sheet metal working, and then you're also at the same time you're thinking CHP? How did that whole process go for you?
Certainly, I was. That process for me was, I was lumping tires, breaking my back, breaking tires down at construction sites, that type of thing. I knew that's a career that's just going to be a service type of job. I knew I wanted to work outside. I saw the construction there. I had friends that I went to high school with at Pleasant Hill High School that actually were pursuing the CHP career. So I was with some friends, went to the fair, and back and forth, I was thinking, what do I want to do? I want to put my life on the line. Do I want to put it this way on the highway, sitting in the vehicle for all this time, or do I want to be out working on job sites out in the field and building things and seeing the end product of what I was doing rather than sitting in a car? I ended up back and forth, going back, getting information from CHP, wages and benefits and those things, and then back to sheet metal workers and wages and benefits. And I think it was the wages and the benefits that got me to go that way, and also the friends that I was with, no lie. Either one would have been a great choice. It ended up construction was the one for me, and working with my hands outside and building things.
And sheet metal work is not the safest job in the world either.
No, it's not. Absolutely. Construction, I really should tell, it's the construction industry is absolutely not safe. And it's getting safer every time days go by and technology changes, it's getting safer. As long as you have the relationships with those that are involved in the industry where they're going to do things properly and not put people in harm's way, or those that are doing the job not putting themselves in harm's way, and everybody knowing what's going on the job. Yeah, but it's a great career. It's been great for me. I'm a first generation guy in this, and really something for me. I can't speak highly enough about the construction industry and the avenue that I took.
How much training did that require?
That was 4.5 years of an apprenticeship that started in February of '84, and I went to school 2 nights a week for 3 hours a night after I was working. So it was more of an earn while you learn career. So I'd work for a contractor during the day, and come back after work and go to school and learn the classroom aspects of my trade. Sheet metal workers were one of the only, actually probably the only craft that takes what we install, we fabricate what we install, and we fabricate from the flat piece of metal. And we're taught to, and we learn how to take this flat piece of metal and make the bends anywhere from 1-inch, 2-inch plate to the tiniest, thinnest metal, all different types of metal. I was more involved in the HVAC end, but I did get I did get the opportunity to work in refineries and see the heavier industrial side of sheet metal, which is, and what's really interesting is to see the change. Used to be 50 people in a shop fabricating for a job, and now it's maybe 3 or 4. You have technology, computers, you have the AutoCAD and the BIM and the 3D modeling and those types of things where the computer and the other crafts in sheet metal we detail as well. And I ended up becoming a journey person and then becoming a detailer, and where I took the engineer's drawings and brought them into a 3D three-dimensional drawings with the distances off of beams. Engineer drawings are more one line telling us what the system should be. Now it's up to sheet metal workers to fit that system into the building with the other crafts so that everything flows and goes and is done right the first time, on budget. That's what it's all about. You have partners in this, which are the employers, and you have the labor side of it, and it's just been a great experience for me knowing that the partnerships are there from labor management, which allows folks to do their job and do their job correctly right the first time, and knowing that they can make a mistake as long as they learn from it. And I can't speak highly enough about, hopefully I answered the question. I have a tendency to ramble, so somebody hit me.
Did he answer the question? Yeah, okay, all right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Emily, I think that you may be the very first person I've ever met who said they wanted to be a German teacher.
Go figure.
Where did that come from?
I was actually born in Germany. My folks were in the service, and so when the opportunity came up to take a German class as an elective in 7th grade, I did. And I ended up taking 6 years of German by the time I had finished high school, and it just seemed natural to go to college and become a German teacher at that point.
And what flipped the switch to something completely different?
Well, I had kept in touch with my German teacher from high school, and she had told me she was now teaching French and another subject because German had gotten cut. And I was seeing that happening more and more in high school and realized that I don't think I wanted to become something that was so specialized. As much as I liked it, it seemed that that probably was going to be a tough future. I had always been interested in architecture as well, and so I just decided to make the switch.
All right, so you design custom homes.
I do.
So what's a custom home? What does that mean, designing one?
A custom home is a home where a customer comes to us, they say, I want to design a home for myself. I want to build it, I want to, I've got a piece of land, I want my bedrooms facing this direction, I want 5 bathrooms and a garage that can hold 10 cars.
These tend to be big.
They tend to be big. Every now and then you get a custom client who wants something really small, and that's just as challenging. It's all actually I find it more fun.
And so how much of a transition did you have in college going from looking at German, speaking German, teaching German, to speaking architecture and doing that?
They're both foreign languages.
I would think so.
Just one is more visual. In architecture, we communicate mostly through drawings and models. Everything is very visual. It's always very interesting to meet with a client who doesn't know how to read a floor plan, and that actually happens quite a bit. It seems second nature to someone who's in the industry, but it's very interesting to put a plan in front of someone and realize that they're not understanding that the living room is wide open to the kitchen and the bedrooms are around the corner. Some people can't see that, and it's up to us to be able to communicate how a house is going to feel and live, or a building is going to feel and work to the people who are going to use it.
Very good. Now we're going to get to questions from the audience here in a little bit, but I just want to kind of run through everybody real quick to just give you an idea of what we're talking about. By the way, 5 out of 6 people born elsewhere? Out of the country, is that right? Raise your hand if you were born outside the United States. Wow, okay, all right, there you go. Impressive. And everybody wanted to come to the United States, to Contra Costa County. We like that, fantastic. Now, Carol, you said something that we have to focus on here. Who's been across the new eastern span of the Bay Bridge? All right, have you driven across it at night? That's when it is most spectacular, I think. When the lights are on, the sky behind it is dark, it is just this engineering marvel. And you were involved in the design and creation of that bridge?
And yes, and I have to say, even though I've been working on this bridge for 10 years, I have not gotten tired of it. And it still amazes me every time I cross it myself, or actually during the process of construction. I look at it every day from where I work, which is the Oakland job site. I'm still very fascinated with it. Yeah, so my role at my company, I'm a senior engineer at T.Y. Lin International, and I started with the company on the foundation construction of the Bay Bridge, actually. So I was involved in the pile driving, being on site, and being on in meetings and answering mostly contractors' questions and acting on behalf of the owner. So I started with the foundation, and when the foundation is finished, I moved on to work on various parts of the bridge. So the deck, the tower, the cable, and actually I was very fortunate to be sent to China for 2 years because that's where the fabrication of the steel tower and the deck were performed. So I worked there for 2 years, came back, and continued to work on the Bay Bridge and saw it being opened. So it was a fascinating career so far for me.
Now, I have to point out that it is the largest self-anchored suspension bridge in the world.
It is the longest. Uh-huh.
And so explain what that is and what that means and how difficult that was to even conceptualize, much less put on paper and put into action.
Oh yeah, it is one of its kind. It is the longest and the widest self-anchored suspension bridge in the world right now, and unlike a conventional suspension bridge, so a conventional suspension bridge, for example, is the Golden Gate. So you visualize two very strong rock anchors on two ends of the cable that the main cable is anchored to. With this bridge, because of site condition and where the span is located, we have soft bay mud on one side of the anchor. So that means we could not anchor the cable with two rock foundation. We have to deal with that situation by designing one single cable that would actually start anchored into its own deck on one side. It wraps around, it goes up to the tower, it goes up to the tower, wraps around on the west side of the deck, and goes back up to the tower again and anchor into its own deck again on the east side. So if you could imagine, the challenges involves, of course, seismicity in the Bay Area. We're located right between very two strong faults, Hayward and San Andreas. Also, because the cable is anchored into its own deck, and it's a steel deck, the steel deck has to resist so much force. Imagine all of the weights, including the traffic weights and the deck's own weight. It's all needed to be supported and carried over by this one single cable. So imagine the deck that anchors it has to be very, very strong, and the grillage has to be designed very intricately and robust to hold this, to withstand this force. And that's just a glimpse of what's involved in the design of this Bay Bridge.
And when you were getting your education, is that the kind of thing that you envisioned doing?
Not at all. I think I said it briefly earlier. I went into UCLA with undeclared life science major. I was thinking, okay, maybe I'll become a genetic engineer. I've always been very interested and good at math and science, but as well as art. So I was like, okay, what can I do to combine it? Or maybe genetic engineering, because I like science, maybe architecture, actually. Funny enough, I was actually thinking into going to architecture at UCLA. However, they did not offer a undergraduate program at that time. So I went into civil engineering, thinking that, okay, maybe I could move over in graduate school. And then just to be sure myself, I actually interned at 3 different places during my college years. I did 15 to 20 hours of work outside of my classes. I almost do it every year. So I first started with interning at a 7-people construction firm that actually does apartment buildings. And then the second time I got into an internship where I was working for a quasi-government agency with thousands of employees, and they do water resources. And then, and then the final years, I actually got a scholarship, and then I worked for this structural engineering firm that designed buildings, and they're responsible for tall buildings designed in downtown LA. And then, it's interesting, and then I took a transportation class in my final year, and I was like, wow, okay, maybe I could combine what my interest in structure to transportation, and you know what, the bridge engineering came up, it's just like a light bulb. And it's interesting how I got into bridge engineering and why I wanted to get into it. It's really due to a selfish reason. I look at a bridge. I was from Hong Kong, so I look at the Chiang Mai Bridge. I'm a native here, so I look at the Golden Gate, and I always ask myself, how is it done? I look at a bridge, and I was like, How does it ever get built? By individuals, by people. And I just wanted to get into this field simply to satisfy my own curiosity. So, and that's mine too, and it's been such a great career for me so far.
I would say that all of our panelists have this curiosity about the world, about their jobs, about the things that they study that drives them. So I hope everybody in here has that curiosity that drives them towards something, one thing or another. It doesn't have to be engineering, it doesn't have to be building, it doesn't have to be TV, just find something that drives you, all right? Mario, you've been the city engineer for Pleasant Hill for 17 years. I've lived here for 15 years. And when I moved here, there was no downtown. There was still, as far as I remember, a bowling alley that was yet to be torn down. So in your time as city engineer, is that what you've done? You've helped create a downtown, you've helped create what is in the city and what we see, because clearly there are no bridges to build here. So what does the city engineer of any city do?
Yes, during my tenure here in the last 17 years, as a city engineer, I'm involved in every single construction project that goes on throughout the city. If you see construction being done, usually it goes by my office. We have to review the plans. We have to talk to the developers at the very early stage. John was talking about downtown. I was involved with the downtown development. That's our new downtown. It's a very complicated process, but it's something that evolves over a number of years. But it's something that as an engineer, I think it's what makes us very interested in the idea of trying to make a change for the better of the community and seeing that create. For those of you who recall, that downtown area was just an industrial park. It was not even, it was just some rundown buildings. And so there was a vision that was eventually transformed into plans and a lot of workshops, a lot of interaction with the community, but then we ended up with the downtown. Now in my years with the city, I think I've had a number of projects, a significant number of projects, and these are capital projects. These are projects that are for the betterment of the community. Everything from transportation systems, signalized, trying to keep our traffic flowing. And I know that we're a small community, and one of the complaints that we tend to get is, well, especially like in this College Park area with DVC, we're growing, and as engineers, we have to be creative, and how do we change that? Because we get more and more population, and this is one of the challenges as engineers, that how do we do this in the future? This is urban design and urban planning, is how do you accommodate more and more people? We're growing as not only a city, but we're growing as a nation, we're growing as a world. And I hear that there's about 7 billion people and currently in the world, and how are we gonna design these transportation systems? And that's what we're gonna rely on engineers to basically do this, and how are we gonna transport, because this is what's interesting in my career, and you start, now I'm diverting a little bit, but you start thinking about like Elon Musk, which is the person who designed the I'm sorry? Tesla. And he has this vision and this challenge of where he wants to transport people from the Bay Area to LA and in these capsules, and using engineering technology to get people within 35 minutes. So those are really creative ideas that I think the next generation is going to have to face. My job for the last 17 years is how to make the city of Pleasant Hill a better place. We currently have a number of projects that we basically are looking at. Currently projects like Buskirk Avenue that maybe for some of you that have been down by the Coal Center, we're investing about $12 million. So one of my responsibilities is to make sure that that project moves forward. Working with engineers, working with the contractors, making sure it's done in a timely manner. We're going to be spending another $10 million on Geary Road, giving that a facelift. We're also spending another $5 million on Contra Costa Boulevard. We have another $5 million project where we're going to be replacing Golf Club Road Bridge, which is right next to DVC, so that's coming up here soon. So one of the challenges, and I think one of the things that's really interesting with urban planning, is that we're looking at a community, how to make it better for you. And we have a lot of challenges that I'm confronted with on a daily basis. A lot of those challenges are really about budget and how do we get that money in here to make this a better place to live.
So you're kind of talking big picture. You are the overseer of all the kinds of projects that are coming your way. And if you didn't notice him kind of alluding to it, you had something to do with the tear down of the Dome Theater, didn't you?
I had nothing to do with that at all.
Nothing. Well, because now we have this big Dick's Sporting Goods
That's what I'm
project.
going to say on TV.
No, but we have this big Dick's Sporting Goods
Right.
project that is going to help revitalize a whole part of that development there that really wasn't doing all that much.
Exactly. Well, that's one of the things as a city, and I think one of the things that's very interested as being a city engineer or in charge of the engineering department is that instead of looking at projects in just one site, what we're looking at, and what I'm looking at is the entire city. So there's a number of areas that we're looking at, and how do we make the entire city better? So again, it's my work area is the city. So if we're talking about the Cole Center, how do we improve that? How do we make that better? Yes, being involved with the new Dick's Sporting Good, how to bring businesses into Pleasant Hill, how to make this a better community. We're also involved with that. I'm heavily involved with the development of different sites.
I can say, as a Pleasant Hill resident, I am very happy that there is now a Nordstrom Rack. Also very happy with a Zachary's Pizza. I think you guys have done some pretty good things here. So
And now we've corrected the Safeway, the queue problem that we had at Safeway. So, as engineers, that's some of the challenges that we have.
Yeah, no, explain that if you would. So the Safeway gas station over right by Safeway and Nordstrom Rack. What was the problem there?
Well, the problem, from an engineering perspective, we pretty much understood what the solution was. It was more of implementing and getting Safeway to basically make a change. And initially, there was some political concerns with making that happen, but we were able to get the traffic to switch over. But that was something that, from an engineering perspective, we knew what the solution was early on. It was implementation that took the while.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Peter, you're a builder. I mean, you create all kinds of different construction. Explain what you do. Webcor is one of those giant companies that does, I mean, everything around the Bay Area. You can see Webcor's footprint in there. So explain that if you would.
That's right. So I joined Webcor just about 8 years ago. Webcor, we call them, it's a general contracting company, meaning we're responsible for taking the vision of the engineers, taking the money from the developers, and building a building. That's exactly what brought me to this field. When I was thinking in high school, when I was your age, what do I want to do? My father actually suggested an idea of going to civil engineering and construction management because as we were driving by, our town, the town kept on growing, kept on changing, just like Pleasant Hill. And as a builder, you leave that footprint on the town, on the city. If you build a building, you can always come back to and point it out to your grandchildren and say, I built that building, right? So that's what brought me here. And as Webcor is a company, kind of a unique. We have a certain culture within the company, culture of entrepreneurs, I would say, where every project becomes almost like a small, self-sufficient running company. So there could be about 20 people working on any given project, and it's their job. Their job is to meet that schedule and budget, just like we were talking earlier. The project that we built ranged from high-rise construction. As you cross that Bay Bridge, you can see the Rincon Hill being currently built, phase 2. We also built a Trans-Bay Thermal project, which is going to bring all kinds of transportation departments into one location in San Francisco. We built the California Memorial Stadium for the UC Berkeley. We built San Francisco General Hospital. We built multiple campuses for high-tech companies here in the Silicon Valley. So that's what really interested me most about civil engineering. As a civil engineer, you can go to transportation, civil works, water resources, and environmental engineering. I was most interested in building buildings.
All right, so you mentioned Memorial Stadium at Cal, which was just finished, two years ago?
About 2 years ago, yes.
Yeah. All right, so what they did was they took the old facade of the stadium, which is has been there forever, and they just rebuilt everything inside and around it. So let me ask you, there actually is a state law that says you can't develop too much on top of a fault. Hayward Fault runs right through that stadium. So how were you able to do what you did? It's a beautiful stadium now. How were you able to do that, yet keep it from going, too expensive and therefore violating that state law?
Exactly. So engineers obviously helped us get there. As a California Bay Area, this is a high seismic zone, meaning that the probability of occurring an earthquake event is extremely high. When that earthquake takes place, the dirt starts moving left and right, meaning it shakes the building left and right, as opposed to the vertical gravity loads that typically a building has to sustain, which it sees every single day. There's a couple of different ways to prevent it. I'll get to a stadium at the end, actually. When we build a cathedral of Christ the Light in Oakland, we actually built a building and we set it on 32 seismic isolators, allowing the building to shift 30 inches one way and 6 inches back the other way, meaning during the earthquake event, the building just rolled on those isolators. The tall buildings like Rincon Hill, they've got a counterweight on the top of the building that when the force is trying to take the building one way, the counterweight acts the other way, and it prevents from moving it too much. So it's almost like a tree with a big weight on top. Seismic precautions on the Memorial Stadium, where since the fault ran right through the middle of the stadium, we created, as they call, seismic joints on either side of that fault, pretty much splitting the stadium into half and having the two halves work independently in case of an earthquake event.
That sounds, for most of us in this room, it's just impossible to even imagine the kinds of knowledge you'd have to design something that can withstand an earthquake, stay standing, support all the traffic on it, that kind of thing. It's just, I was never an engineer. I was not that great at that kind of thing. Science I liked, but I just never pursued that. Everybody in here is interested in engineering or that kind of aspect of education? Is that you guys? Yes? Maybe? Yes? All right, good, excellent. Yvonne, you work in a much smaller level of engineering. You're not designing bridges. You're not designing buildings that can withstand an earthquake. What do you design? How do you put that education that you have, all those years of education that you have, to work?
Okay. So, and it's interesting because when I graduated from mechanical engineering, again, I said I'd like to take things apart, wanted to understand how things work. So through my career, first I started in the maintenance department, understanding how things work. Then from there I went into how does the plant work. And what I'm doing right now, I'm a management system leader at the site. And you say, well, what does that mean? So it's getting beyond understanding, how things work, but also how do we train people? How do we make things better? So we when we talk about management systems, we say, well, everything has, it's kind of like a cycle. You have what they call the plan, do, check, act cycle, where for everything that you do, you have to have a plan, then you're going to do it, and for doing it, you're going to have procedures. For your planning, you need to make sure that you know exactly what it is that you're doing. Then you do it. Sometimes you might have to have training. Then when you're actually doing it, your plant is producing, or you can even apply this to a trip. You plan the trip, and you say, well, we're going to go visit family, and we need to make sure that grandma gets included in the trip, right? So then you do the trip, and you're in the trip, and visiting, going to the beach, all these things. But oh gosh, remember we need to go visit grandma because we don't want to forget about that. So it's what is your plan that you have? Then the next step is the check. So in the check step, you're constantly checking, are we doing what we're supposed to be doing? And if we're not, how are we going to correct that? So, okay, have we visited grandma yet? No, well, let's go ahead and make plans for that. When you're in the plant, are we meeting the schedule that we said we were going to commit to? No, it's not happening. So what are we going to be doing about that? So that's where the check comes in. And in the check, there's a lot of things. For instance, one of the other things that I get involved is in making things better. One of the things about making things better is understanding when things fail, why did they fail? So we have a lot of mechanical equipment. So let's say a pump, has a pin and it breaks. Well, things break for two reasons. One was that whatever force acted on it was was too strong, but also because whatever it broke was not strong enough to withstand the force. So then you say, okay, so why was it that the force was there too strong? And then you also ask the question, well, why was it that that piece of equipment was not that strong? And you say, well, maybe it was not that strong because we had some corrosion problems. And you say, okay, well, why did we have corrosion problems? Well, it was not protected. And then you keep asking, why? Well, it was because maybe we forgot to lubricate the piece of equipment. You say, well, what do you mean you forgot to lubricate? Well, it was supposed to be in a schedule, but then we went into a new system, and that piece of equipment got lost in the shuffle. So you say, okay, so what is this management system that is going to make us make sure that we don't forget about this? So this is kind of the stuff that I get involved, again, from trying to figure out, how things work, have gotten into the, what are the processes that we work around, and basically, kind of like the way I look at things is that, everything is a process. There's inputs and there's outputs, and something happened in the middle that, you try to understand, well, what is it that thing was not supposed to, or everything has a function. So when something doesn't provide that function, it's always, one of our systems is to keep on asking why is it that it broke, and if it broke, why don't leave it there at something broke. We'll find out why it broke. And on the example, just keep on asking. And it's interesting because sometimes I think, well, gosh, I went to engineering and I got to study calculus and differential equations, and sometimes I don't really get to use that much, but it's some of these other experiences in life that, it's more, these systems of just asking why and continuing to ask why that sometimes makes us be better at what we are.
Is the question why the most important question you can ask no matter what you're doing?
I believe so, yes.
Think about that there. All right, you guys right there. All right. Were you always a good student? I want to ask everybody this question. Were you always a good student, and what were your favorite topics to study in school? Starting with you, Ivan.
I did like math and science, and I was an okay student, not the best, but one of the things that I have to share is that I do think that it's important to have a passion. I mentioned earlier, I got a scholarship, and throughout my career, there's been times that I've moved up, and I think that has happened because at the time I had a passion and I had a story that I shared. So I think it's important to learn to sell yourself and be passionate. Know yourself. Know what it is that you really, really like, and then tell a good story about it, because when somebody hears you tell a good story and you can share it with a passion that says, like, gosh, I did not, when I first saw a PNID diagram, which, for instance, I brought one here, this at work. It's, well, I'll just hold it this way, and just a lot of lines and little letters, and gosh, it just looks so complicated, but it's one of those things that, you start looking at it, or you ask the questions, well, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? And eventually, you get to understand it. Then now I can tell you, gosh, it's really excited that when I first saw that, I did not know how to read it, and now I can explain to you what it means, and I can talk about it with, a strong enough passion that people will listen to you and would want to help you. So two things: talk with passion, but also ask questions.
I have to ask you, though, real quick. This isn't a why question either. You say you were an okay student. Do you mind my asking what kind of GPA you had in high school? What you consider an okay student?
Well, okay, so this was in Mexico, right? So I don't even remember exactly, but it was about an 8.9.
8.9.
Because the system is out of 10, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically 90%. 89, 90%.
Right, 90%, right.
So that's probably, what, a B plus, A minus?
Yeah, B plus.
That's an okay student in the world of engineering, apparently. All right. Mario, please tell us what kind of a student you were, what you liked, and actually throw in, if you would, were those the things that you ended up doing later in life?
Okay. Well, I was one of those students that always sat in the front of the class, so I don't know how many of you sit in the front of the class, but are those the smart ones or the? I sat in the front of the class, and I think I was a good student. I enjoyed participating in class. I don't know if that was. I think I was always throughout my career a pretty decent student. It just came easy. I think the math came easy, the physics came easy. Those were things that it was just easy, and I don't know if those, there was subjects that I was bad at, things that I had no interest in, and I think biology and I think some other classes, some of the social, some of the social classes, I just wasn't, maybe as an engineer and at the early age I was more of an introvert, so I was more of a bookworm, so I know some of those classes I wasn't as interested in, but I think overall throughout the career I think I was a fairly good student in some of those areas that I really enjoyed. I think if you enjoy it, I think you become good at it, and I think it becomes easy. If there's something that you're studying in class and you don't really care for, I think you get distracted easily because it's just not something that you want to engage in, and I think that's something that I think that's how you kind of learn towards what it is you want to become. I think one of the stories that I tell is that I knew at a very early age I wanted to become an engineer because I either wanted to become an engineer or an architect. Those two things that I felt very, very strongly about, and I think growing up in the Bay Area and just the bridges, the network, just going to the city and seeing the tall buildings is just, how do you do this? How do you build this? Who builds this stuff? And I was just very intrigued at a young age. So I think when I was in school, I really just, it was easy to gear towards that, and I think I really understood and clicked, and I had that desire to either fix things or to be creative, innovative, and it just geared me towards the engineering part of versus other career options that I may have had.
Very good. Carol, same question.
Okay, so the question was, have I always been a good student, or
And
were you a good student?
What did you
type-
like in school?
okay.
What were your, like when you were in high school, what did you really excel in? What did you enjoy?
Sure, I'll come out and say it. I've always been a good student. I'll come out and say it. But being a good student or getting a high GPA has never been what I was striving for. What I was striving for always is when I was given a task, I would finish it to completion and do a good job at it. I think that's more important, is that attitude. And eventually the grades would come. And what I was interested in high school or elementary school has, like I said, science, math, and also art. So there's not really one thing that I find myself in particularly good at or whatnot, but if you have the mentality that whatever you're given, do a good job at it and finish it, I think you would learn more from your assignment, and you would gain a lot from that, having that attitude. Also, I wanted to emphasize this one thing. The knowledge that you learn in school stays with you forever. Even though it's been 10 years since I came out of college, or actually even more since high school, I do find myself having to go back to what I learned before. And it takes, whether you were paying attention in class or you were really paying attention to finish up the task and assignment that you were given. And it's still very useful at this time in my career. So just when you're given a chance to learn the knowledge, just take advantage of it and absorb as much as you can. And that's something that I would really like to drive home.
I want to expand on just one thing that Carol just said, and that is, I'm going to take kind of a sports metaphor here. You shouldn't be playing a sport for the trophy. You should be playing a sport for the love of the game and wanting to be good at whatever that game is. I think everybody up here agrees that if you're good at something, it's a lot more enjoyable. I mean, if you juggle and you're like dropping everything on the ground, it's not very fun. But if you start juggling, you can do it 3, 4, 5 flaming torches or whatever. You really get good at it, you enjoy it, and all that. So you shouldn't be thinking about whatever you do as, I need to get an A in that. Because if you focus on really learning it, then you are going to get the A, because that's the goal is very different there. And it makes it honestly a lot easier. It makes it less of a task to learn, since we're talking high school right now, it makes it less of a task to learn if you're focused on trying to learn rather than trying to get an A. Trying to get an A is secondary to the whole task of school. I mean, that's really a very difficult way to focus on what you're doing. Yeah. All right. Kevin, please. What did you enjoy in school, and how good a student were you?
Yeah, I was not a good student. Came from, my world got turned upside down on me, parents divorcing when I was in 7th grade, and interest of school went out the window for me. But I did realize it was necessary, and I needed my high school diploma. And so in the confusion of my life, I went and I talked to people that were outside of my life and asked, shared my experience about, I thought it was my fault to divorce. I went through all that kind of good stuff, and I didn't like it as far as school. I talked to some folks, and I got good advice of, you got to get your diploma. And the best way to go to school when you don't like it is to go to school and try and go in happy. Go in with a smile on your face and expect that you're going to be taught something, and open my mind, use my mind like a parachute. It works best when it's open. And don't keep, that's what was told to me, and realize that those people that are teaching me are there to teach me and to make me a better person. I ended up getting my diploma. I hated history. I hated English. I loved math. I loved the shops. I loved doing things with my hand, sports, all that kind of stuff.
What sports did you play?
I was track and basketball. I got kicked off the basketball team. I still play basketball today. I played in Pleasant Hill Rec League since '79 when I graduated to present. I'm missing a game tonight. Been the champions there, all that. Bob Berggren of our park district, he was my 6th grade coach, basketball. So I really loved the sports. I was never terribly good at it.
And you didn't play for the trophy. You played because you loved the sport. I
liked the sports, and I still to this day am out doing sports, and that's one of my biggest hobbies is playing sports, basketball, whatever, any type of sport, indoor, outdoor. So quick answer to that, no, I wasn't a very good student. Probably a grade point average, 2.3. What's that, a D? C?
C plus.
C. But, then I got to doing things that I liked, and that's what really turned me on. And now I'm a trustee on a JATC, a Joint Apprentice Training Committee. And I sit and I help students learn, and I taught down at our training center. And so when you get to something that you love, it's there. It's just a matter of you finding it. And it's a matter of not letting your peers, the folks in the room, direct you in any other direction than the direction you want to go in, and follow those dreams. I wish I would have done better in high school. I wish I would have been a little more focused. I can't blame the divorce, but I could say that's where I went off track and struggled.
It was a big distraction.
It was a big distraction in my life, and it was hard to focus. But you pull up the bootstraps and you keep going and you move on, and here you go. There's something out there for all of us. Whether I wish I would have had a 4-year degree. My 2 kids, all my kids went to the Pleasant Hill schools and graduated here from the Falcon's Nest. And my son, a 4-year degree at Cal Berkeley. My daughter, a 4-year degree at UC Davis, both on scholarships. The first in my family to do that. So I'm proud of them, and I kind of wonder, are they mine sometimes? What did I do to help you not take the path I took? But they are mine. I have a great band. It's been good. I see it as you choose what you want to do, and when you find that, it's going to hit you smack dab in the face. And don't do it as a job, do it as a career. Make sure that it's something that you choose to get into as a career that you see yourself doing for the rest of your life, to raise your family on. But did I answer the question again? I think.
Very well, thank you. Emily, your thoughts about when you were a student in high school and what got you going?
I was a fairly good student in high school. I would have been a great student in high school had I not had to take biology. But I think, obviously, I like German. I really liked PE. It was a nice break. I also liked math, and the funny thing is, I hear that from everybody here on the panel, but I liked math because there was always one answer. There wasn't 5 zillion answers. There wasn't, well, this would work better if you did it this way, but it might work differently if you did it this way. I like math because it has absolutely nothing to do with what I do every day. There is no answer right or wrong in what I do every day. And that can be a little bit of a frustrating part of architecture. It's great because it challenges your creativity, but I like math because 1 and 1 is always 2.
Excellent. Peter.
Well, my favorite subject was physical education, just like yours, I guess. I excelled at it. I played on every single team in my high school. Really enjoyed it. And because I was doing so much sports, that also taught me how to be really efficient with my studying. Since I have very limited time to study, I made the most out of it, which is sometimes the best way to do it. If you dwell on something way too long, the results are not as good as if you just strap down and, okay, I'm going to do it. So my GPA was probably 3.5. My favorite topic was, next to PE, was physics, which I would say the most resembles engineering, which is another interesting thing about going from high school to college. Some of those courses don't translate directly from high school to college. All of a sudden you're studying a bunch of topics you've never even heard of in high school. But physics was this one topic that allowed me to transfer from physics to things like statics, dynamics, mechanics. So I enjoyed that.
Very good. I'll tell you real quick, I was not a great student. I had about a 3.0, both in high school and college. And I honestly, and I'm going to open my heart here to you, I thought I was smart enough already, basically. I thought I was one of those kids that knew everything. I grew up with very, very smart parents, highly educated, deep readers and all that. And I was a reader. I read pretty complex books as a kid and all that. But I thought I was too smart, too cool for school, right? And now, without a doubt, I know very well I'm smart enough to realize I don't know anything. And that's bottom line. I mean, I'm now in my 40s, and I know that there is so much out there to learn. And you can never learn enough. That's what it comes down to, whether it's about your chosen profession or about all the other things in the world to learn. I mean, it's a huge world. I mean, just walk into Barnes & Noble, look at all the books written about all the different topics in there. And that's just the nonfiction, all right? And then, of course, there's all the fiction, too. And the thing is, when you're reading, when you're talking to people, when you're hearing stories, you can learn from everything around you. You can learn something about human behavior, you can learn something about yourself, you can learn something about the way the world works. That's one of the great things about my job. I wasn't a great student, but I'm a television news reporter now. I go out and I report on the news of the day. I know what a self-anchored suspension bridge is because of my job, all right? I learn a little bit about everything. I don't know anything compared to what these folks know about their professions. I know just a little thumbnail, all right? But I know a lot about a lot of different things, comparatively speaking. And so what I say about me now is I wasn't a very good student in school, but I'm now a student of the world. That's what I learn about everything in the Bay Area, and it's fascinating. And so I finally found something that really drove me, really lit me on fire, and that is hearing people's stories and then very quickly turning around and telling you all about what I heard. So I wasn't very good back then. I learned that I had to be better. I learned that later in life I could continue to learn, and that's what I do now. So with that in mind, who has a question for our great panelists? Yes, sir. You raise your hand very quickly. Hang on a second. I'm going to bring you the mic. Someone told me I'd be like Phil Donahue in here. Now, I know all the youngsters in here have no idea who I'm talking about. Sir.
Hello, Anthony Reese. I was just hoping that the panel could share a little bit about what credentials one might need to get an interview at your firm and what the starting salary might be.
Very good question. So with the jobs that you guys have, how hard is it to get in there, start working? what do you need? I mean, obviously you need, in some you need degrees, some you need advanced degrees, and then what kind of pay can you expect in your line of work?
So let me take that question. To join company like Webcore, you've got really two ways to get there. You either go to college and you study either civil engineering, construction management, mechanical engineering, architecture, those type of courses. You graduate with a 4-year degree, and at the age of, say, 22, you join our firm as a project engineer, and you can expect about $65,000 a year salary, right? There's a second way, similar to what Kevin was talking about. You can go join a union, get training through them, and then join our field force. And as a future superintendent for our company, you can also go through that path as well.
In architecture, every state is different. So in California, for example, you have to have, you can become an architect regardless of what kind of degree you have, or even if you don't have a degree. What it takes in order to be able to sit for your licensing exams is a certain number of years of work experience. And sometimes, depending on the degree you have, school can count as a couple of years towards that work experience. The type of degree you have also will dictate when you can start taking your licensing exams. So the more advanced your degree is, the quicker you can become a licensed architect. Starting salaries in our profession range. It depends on whether you're working for a small firm or whether you're working for a big firm. Roughly, it also depends on where in the country you're working. In the Bay Area, starting salaries range from about $35,000 to $45,000, depending on what type of firm you're with.
To become a sheet metal worker, it's a matter of coming down to any of the locals in the Bay Area and sign up. We take applications the first and third Tuesday of every month. And that's pretty much the same with most of the crafts in the construction industry. You apply, and then there's tests and classes that you could go to earn extra points. And through all the different tests and avenues through the application process, you earn what's your score. And then once we're ready to bring apprentices into the program, we give a final test, which is actually not administered by the union. It's administered by Foothill College. For your apprenticeship, you earn college credits while you're an apprentice in most of the crafts out there. So you apply, you get accepted, you get those tests, you get your score, and then finally tally up all the scores, and the person with the highest score is the first one to be chosen into the program to start the apprenticeship, the 5-year apprenticeship now, and that starting wage as an apprentice once you do become an apprentice. I'm just talking the base wage, what you see on your check. If you worked 2,000 hours in a year, the base wage is $17. It's $34,000 a year as a starting apprentice at the base wage. Your total package with benefits and things of that nature is up to $45 as a starting apprentice. And then you advance through your accomplishments, through your on-the-job training and your school training, in the classroom training. Once I missed a part, once you become in the apprenticeship program, you're now a state registered apprentice with the state of California. And you're going through a recognized apprenticeship program. And they know you, and you're in it, and you pass it. 5 years later, you become a journey person if you have those 5 years of on-the-job training and the hours for that and hours for in the classroom. Once you've done that, you become a journey person. The final apprentice step wage, base wage on your check, is $77,000 a year, just at the base wage. But then you add in the benefits and the pensions and things of that nature. It adds up to, I've brought the wages here, it adds up to, when you become a journeyman, $88.14 an hour as a sheet metal worker. Some trades more, some trades less. It's a sustainable wage. It's what allowed me to work here, the years that I have, live in Pleasant Hill, own a house, raise a family, my wife stay home for 18 years and raise our children, and then choose to go back to work after our children are out of the house. It's a great career. I'm wandering now. Your turn. Yes. Oh, and that's the big thing is the retirement. I'm 52. I just turned 52 in May, and I've reached retirement age. With sheet metal workers, our retirement age for the years that I've been in is 25 years and 52 years of age, and I'm able to retire with full benefits. My benefits for working, now it's about hours and working and showing up to work. All we need applying to these programs is kids like you that have the soft skills, that want to work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for a career. And you could do this too. It's not just Kevin, it's many other kids. We have quite a few students from College Park High School that have been through our program. So the pension is huge. Right now I could retire with $8,000 a month from my local pension. That's because I took my career seriously. I went and I worked. I was never out of a job. When I went and solicited a job. Building tradesmen and women were the only group out there, I think you would say, or industry that works ourselves out of a job in some instances. I guess engineers do as well, because you get the job and your job is to build it, and what do? You're done. So just because the job's coming to an end, you keep moving and you build that job and it ends and off you go. So retirement is great, and sheet metal workers have 3 pension plans currently with Local 104. So the others kick in at different ages in my life. But I will be retired and not be a burden to you folks that are the tax-paying citizens. I will be on my own, and I will be able to take care of myself through what they say are the golden years. I don't know why they say that. So, but anyway, that's sheet metal workers, and it's plumbers, electricians, carpenters, laborers. There's 26 different crafts out there, so thank you. Thanks for the reminder. Actually, if I may, I said I had 3 kids, and I only mentioned 2 that got the UC degrees. Look, boy, and my youngest chose the path that I chose. And she's now in her 2nd year of apprenticeship to become a mobile crane operator. If you went across the Bay Bridge and you saw the cranes that were out there, you see the cranes that are at the buildings in the city, she's on her way in a 5-year program to become a mobile crane operator. I'm just as proud of her as I am of the 2 with the degree. She's making more money than the 2 with the degree. I mean, but it's not about making money, it's about doing something that you enjoy, because it'll never do you any good if you don't enjoy it. Don't ever go to work because you have to. And always live. In today's day and age, I tell every apprentice that comes into the program, set your sights to live through your apprenticeship program at the rate you are at a first-year apprentice. Leave your vacation pay alone. Don't go get yourself out in debt and buy the new cars because you became an apprentice. Save, save, save. By the time you're done with your apprenticeship, you'll be in control. You'll be able to withstand those times when the construction industry is in a lull like it has been since 2007. And 50% of my membership is out of work, losing their homes, losing their livelihood because there's just no darn work. So with that,
It sounds like I should apply right away. With TO Island International, it's a multidisciplinary company, so with different departments, there are different requirements, of course, but I could speak for the big bridge business line that I'm in. And as a structural engineer, I've gone through a 4-year degree in civil engineering, and because structural engineering is more of a specialized field among civil engineering, I went on and did a master. It's a 1-year master degree. And in order to be in this company, of course, not only not only the school experience do they look at when they pick candidates, they also look at your past work experience. For example, internships. The fact that I had 3 internships became a very valuable asset because I could prove that even before I take on a full-time job, I was able to have the communication skills, some of the basics engineering skills, some of the technical skills, and being able to work in a company environment, in a team environment. So that's something to take notes and to keep in mind when you get into college, is to acquire as many internship experience and work experience as you can. Also, in the civil engineering field, it's also, there's a licensing requirement as well to become a professional engineer. So you start out with what we call an EIT, which is engineer in training. So, and that is a pre-license that most people take toward the later time of their undergraduate years. And after you obtain your EIT, depending on your work experience and whatnot, you move on, and within enough years of work experience, then you could be qualified to take the PE professional engineer examinations and become a licensed professional engineers. And if you do want to advance further and be more specialized, there's also a structural engineer SE license that you could also obtain.
And how much do you make?
Sorry.
Not you, but when you start.
A starting salary, I would say there's a wide range depending on your experience. I would say it could range from $45,000 to $65,000 as your starting salary. And also I wanted to emphasize that it's not the salary is one portion of what we should focus on when we choose a career, but also what drives me to this career of mine is the fact that TYLN works on worldwide bridges. I get a lot of travel experience. I get to be the students of the world. For example, actually tonight I'm actually flying to Chicago. So I worked on projects in Taiwan. I worked on projects in Saudi Arabia. I went to China for 2 years. For that, the experience that you gain is priceless in my mind.
Working for a municipality, working for like the city of Pleasant Hill, we have different levels. The entry level that we currently offer is an assistant engineer. That requires a 4-year degree. If you go into the next level, which is an associate engineer, that requires a professional engineer license. As was talked about, that's a license that you acquire with the state of California. It's an 8-hour exam where seismic, and it's a complex exam, a very complex exam, but it's something that you acquire a license, and the license is good for you in order to sign documents, in order to approve plans, in order to submit plans. Usually if you're going to go to a private field or work for a public agency, a PE, what we call PE, which is a California license, a professional registered license, is what you want to obtain. That allows you to go into the next level, which is associate engineer. There's another layer, which is a senior engineer. I'm at a level at a city engineering division manager, and from there you can go on to director and so forth. I think one of the things which was mentioned is, I think those of us who are engineers, we don't really get into it for the money. I think there's other careers that are a lot more. There's a lot more opportunity to make money, but it's because we love what we do. It's what we're good at, or what where we want to be creative. And I think you don't look at it initially. I think with any career, if you're very good at it, in time you will make the money that your experience pretty much demands, because you'll be very marketable. And I think that's something that you need to focus on. Entry-level engineering jobs with the municipality range from $40,000 to maybe $60,000. But again, it's the long term. I think it's the experience. I think it's loving what you want to do that you get into this business, you get into the engineering field because it's what you want to do. And for those of us that have worked for many years, we want to get up in the morning and we want to go to a job that we enjoy. It doesn't matter how much money you make if you don't enjoy what you do, and I think that's very important. Whatever career you decide to do it because you really enjoy it, you really want to do this, and you want to go to work and you want to wake up and enjoy what you do. So with that in mind, I think that covers my end of things.
So again, with engineering, yes, the starting salary, the same in the chemical industry, is about, 65,000 a year. I do have a brochure here for what they call the Process Technology Program. It's a program that they have at Los Medanos College. I think they're starting some also here at DVC. So these are the two degree programs that, maybe the starting salary is going to be more around, the 40 to 50,000. But one of the things that programs like this has is, a lot of the overtime, and sometimes with overtime, you can jump up to 80,000, depending on the work. What's also exciting about some of this process tech, they have the process tech. These programs have been created by the industry. So the first year that because my company helped create some of these programs, we thought, okay, a class I think of 12 graduated. We thought, okay, we'll be able to get some people now to come and work for us on this, just the way that we trained them through the college. Well, we were able to hire nobody because all the other chemical companies in the area hired them. So, I mean, it's just like flying like pancakes. The same for the electrical tech program. There's also, I think, a mechanical tech program. So these are, it's a 2-degree program that, again, if you're interested in the manufacturing side of things, and again, it's one of those things that you can do this for a couple of years, then quit, have fun, and then maybe go back to school for a 4-degree. But I think it's a good start.
All right, so we've very quickly run out of time, so I apologize that we didn't get to anybody else's questions, but feel free to come up and talk to these wonderful folks individually. I'm sure they'll be happy to hang around, aside from maybe Carol, who has to make a plane. I want to leave you with 2 things. One, something that you've heard repeatedly here: find your passion. All right? No matter how much money you make, if you hate your job, it's going to suck, honestly. I mean, you cannot do a job for $500,000 if you have to work for someone you don't want to work for, doing something you don't want to do. So find something that inspires you. And it may be that job pays you $50,000 for the rest of the year, but if you do it and you really, really enjoy it and it feeds you, it feeds your soul, that's all that matters, all right? 2, just like Kevin made sure that 2 of his kids went off and got those college degrees, I'm going to say that you are much better off in this world, on average, if you get a college degree. Bottom line. What's the statistic? With a college degree, you're going to make $1 million more in your lifetime than you will without a college degree. Who wants $1 million? All right? All right, $1 million. So get that college degree. All right, give it up for our panelists, please. And thank you all very much for being here. Thanks again to the Pleasant Hill Education Advisory Commission. Thank you very much, Jennifer, the mayor who was here. Thank you very much to College Park for hosting tonight. It was a wonderful event. And please come on up and talk to our panelists.